Hey, Jim Toscano here, and welcome to the Monday night live stream on Thursday. So, this is the Monday night live stream reboot edition on Thursday because there was major technical difficulty on Monday, which I won't bore you with the details, but it was an update that went haywire, and then I saw some smoke coming out of things. No. So, I am streaming tonight. Usually, we would be doing the hand technique workshop tonight, which I have the pad set up just in case we have the urge to start going paradiddle, paradiddle, but tonight will be my interview and my rehang, reboot hang with Kelli Rae Tubbs. I'm so excited to have Kelli with me. We went live earlier today and did a little test just to make sure that everything was indeed happening, which it was. And we had another great hang. So we've been hanging out a lot lately, so I'm not complaining whatsoever. So Kelli Rae Tubbs is a drummer, percussionist, vocalist, collector. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Historian, super talented, multi-talented woman that is very inspiring to me and has a super cool project coming up with Daniel Glass pretty soon. Daniel Glass is another talented drummer, historian, as you all know. And so they have this cool project coming up pretty soon. And so I'm just going to jump into it because this is the second time I'm introducing this show. And I just want to get to it. I want to spend some time with Kel. And so my guest, Kelli Rae Tubbs, thank goodness we're here.
I'm so glad to be back again.
Back again with you doing
With
this thing
you.
that we've done twice already. Oh my goodness. So, it's so nice that we got to actually spend the extra time together because I got to know you a little bit more. And, I mentioned the other night that you and I met basically the first time because you were getting ready for a master class. I do a lot of technology coaching, so I was helping my student Ross Amoroso with technology stuff. And Ross Amoroso, by the way, is a regular in the hand technique workshop, and hopefully he's in the chat tonight. And I'm going to check the chat early because I want feedback on, hey, how did we sound
Hey,
tonight?
why can't we hear her? Why can't we hear her?
Ross said, hello, Jim and Kelli Rae. Thank
Hi.
you both for rescheduling the interview. John Gill just said, the sound is perfect tonight. Excellent. So that's very encouraging. Daniel Michael says he's been looking forward to this all week. Let's try again. Lucia is back saying, good evening, Jim and Kelli. How's everyone tonight? So cool. We're off to a good start. Larry Rizzo's hanging with us. And Lucia Rose Seminara would be in my hand technique workshop tonight. So a lot of my regulars, John Gill, we would be playing. And I said, man, this is the perfect night to do the reboot. And we'll get all of our participants from HTW to come in and learn about drumming and learn from your wisdom and your experience. Jeremy Simpson is inside here.
Hey, Jeremy.
So he said, running a bit late, are you? Am I? I don't think I'm
Yeah,
running late.
3 days.
Oh, yeah. Wow, that was, yes, I'm running a bit 3 days, 4 days late, right?
Oh, yeah.
Monday, tonight's Thursday. So, yes, Jeremy, thank you for pointing that out. 4 days late. So, man, the other night, we were into some conversations about early drumming and stuff, but I kind of want to jump into that. And by the way, I want to mention one other thing before we jump into that. We lost Charlie Watts recently, and man, it's like, a lot of the drummers, musicians in general that we've lost, Charlie Watts, I think it made me start like sending out transcriptions of Charlie Watts playing to students and just saying like, man, check out, what was going on with Charlie Watts and what he was doing. And, obviously condolences to his friends and family and his band. And I'm sure, it's been really difficult, but, we lost a really incredible drummer, I think, and an important drummer. And I will tell you just quickly on Instagram, on my friend Eric's page, somebody decided to write, I'm about to make all the drummers lose their minds. And he said something about Ringo and Charlie Watts being the worst drummers on the planet. And I fought that with younger students a long time ago, where they would be like, "Oh, Ringo sucks." I love Mike Portnoy or whatever, and I'm like, listen, you have to go back to go forward. You have to go back to the roots to go forward. So don't tell
So
me about
true.
Mike Portnoy, because if you were to speak to Mike Portnoy, he would tell you how influenced he was by Ringo. So you have to go.
Yes.
Yeah,
Speaking directly to that. So today's drummers, if they are influenced by Dave Grohl, was influenced by John Bonham, who was influenced by Gene Krupa, who was influenced by Baby Dodds, who was influenced by Lewis Cottrell Sr., who was influenced by Fred Cornwell. So you can take the lineage, and you are going to inspire some kid, whoever you are. And I mean,
exactly.
it just you have to have that history. You have to be aware of it,
Yes,
because
indeed.
otherwise there's an emptiness in your playing.
Right. And then take that kid that's, maybe 15 or 14 or 15 that hasn't been really exposed to that much music yet. And, if you were talking about Baby Dodds, they would be picturing in their mind, oh, like a modern drum kit with with like a rack, and it's like, no, there was basically, pre that, you're talking a bass drum with a snare drum leaning on a chair, or, like there
Mm-hmm.
was none of this, right? So the playing and the drum kit were evolving probably at different rates, but evolving together, right? Maybe you could speak to that a little
Absolutely,
bit.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Each the advances in each one helping to move the other forward. So you can't have the advancement in the music without having the equipment advance. And then when the music advances, now you need some other equipment to advance further.
Right. It
So
wasn't
it
like
feeds each other.
it wasn't like, hey, Baby Dots, could you bring up that hand clap sample on the SBX 90 and fire up Ableton. Here we go. So, you know, different different times. So,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
one
for
thing
sure.
I want to mention is, of course this conversation comes up whenever Charlie Watts comes up, but I will say to a student or myself, I'm going to Charlie Watts that groove, or hey, do me a favor and Charlie Watts that groove. And so I love when my younger students, and these days I don't teach very many younger students, but I love when they learn what that is, and that that he was not layering his hands. And I watched this great interview with um, Hal Blaine, Jim Keltner, and Charlie Watts, and the question was posed, why do you play that way? And Charlie said, I was trying to get my hi-hat hand out of the way from my snare hand. So he was creating the space. So when he
Oh,
hits his
sure.
backbeat, he actually does a wrist, like a pull out, sort of like this, like a formal wrist stroke. And he
Interesting.
goes
Yeah.
like chick chick got chick 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 got. So when he hits, he actually pulls back. And so when you watch him, it's really interesting that he does that. And then Keltner was like, "Man, I stole that from you," talking to Charlie Watts. And then Hal Blaine said he was doing it to get a cleaner sound where the hands weren't overlapping in the studio. And then Keltner said that a bunch of engineers told him that they like that because it cleans it up a little bit without the
Sure.
layering. So it's like an early linear kind of thing in a way, but it was
Right.
also a practical innovation, right? So
Absolutely.
I wonder if that goes back even further in time, if we've seen that kind of thing.
I'm not. I'm not going to say no. I just don't know.
Right. Yeah. But it's something,
Yeah.
you can kind of ponder. I mean, also, I think with sometimes with a two beat kind of thing, you might hear tit-tat, 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 instead of tit-chat, tit-chat, right? So
Mhm,
instead
mhm.
of all the quarters. So maybe it existed even predating those guys.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah. So anyway, Charlie watching it. So I wanted to give a little tribute to Charlie. So what have you been doing lately? So I want you to kind of talk about what you're up to now before we go back and start talking about drums and drum history. So what do
Well,
you have happening?
I had a really unique show last night
Yeah.
that was at First Avenue and Seventh Street entry. Which, if you are in the land of Prince, as I am, First Avenue was where all of the. I mean, it's an A-list club first of all, and it's where all of the Purple Rain concert scenes were filmed. So this is a legendary place even before that happened, but it just became uber legendary. And there's another smaller room in that same complex called the 7th Street Entry. And we were part of a CD release party for another artist, but this compilation, I guess, collaboration of women musicians called the Hive. And the Hive, they call it a cross-pollination collaboration. So three different singer-songwriters and a bass player and myself, and so 5 strong vocals. And we got a really lovely review for the show last night that we did. So just playing 4 of each songwriter's songs in a different style, country and R&B and kind of pop, and just made a set list that worked. And it was just a lot of fun. And these are typically it's people who don't necessarily know each other in this collaboration. So you're literally coming in for one time, 1 hour, and then you're done.
Right. Oh my goodness.
And it was just, it was fun. So much fun.
Was that recorded? Is it going to be repeated anywhere?
It was not recorded.
Wow.
A couple of photos, but that was it. It's, if you were there, you got it. If you didn't, you missed out.
Oh man. Well, it sounds like it was pretty amazing. Did you play? So you were playing for all of the artists throughout then?
We were all playing together.
So everyone was together.
Presenting as a 5-piece band.
Wow. And then the compositions were from various people at various times. So were you reading the gig down? Was it all charted, or how did that work?
It was lyric sheets, and a couple of charts were provided. We got together a couple of times, but only once with all 5 people.
Right.
And so it's like your own personal shorthand and some notes on some things and some arrangements to make things a little more interesting. And yeah, it was fun. It was fun to prepare and fun to do.
Awesome. So do you think that'll happen again, or is this a one-off? It's like, that was it.
The Hive collaborations will happen again. I'm not sure how many they've had in the past. Okay. Whether or not they invite me for the next one, right, is up in the air, or whether I'll be available to do the next one.
Right.
But it's fun to build those relationships with artists that you don't know, and they all were strong singer-songwriters in their own, each one was as strong as the other 2. So it wasn't an uneven balance of talent. It was just nice.
Wow. Yeah, that's really nice. And it kind of reminds me, I used to do a lot of cabaret kind of stuff. And so doing cabaret, you would get called, and different musicians every time and different vocalists, and, sort of, I love the excitement of that, like coming together with people, and you have that one hit, and it's like, you really have to be 100% on, and and just hit it, and then you're out. Yeah. So now let's real quick. I just wanted to mention the project that you do with Daniel Glass, because so this is called the Postcard Project.
It is. And it's based on the book is based on a collection of photographs I have of drummers between 1900 and 1930. I've got more than 400 photographs from drummers and drum sets, and some from other countries, and the photographs have certainly come from all over the world, but mostly on the development of the drum set, but just the circumstances and the instruments that we used to play, we as historical drummers in the timeline, the equipment that we used to use, and what they would do, our peers from 100 years ago, what they would do in winter weather doing parades, and in rainy weather doing parades. And it's just fantastic look at how things have changed and how things have stayed the same, and how we're just all kind of crazy. Really, right?
100%. I say it all the time. Everybody's sick of it, I know, but I'm going to say it again. But drummers, we're this weird extended family. And, I think we have a bond unlike any other musician. Lucia, what's the thing I always say? Say it in the chat. Like I make the joke that bassoon players don't do what we do, get together and chat about, bassoon history, and like we have
once a year at the convention, but
yeah,
yeah.
maybe, yeah, or they're snubbing each other because somebody got the symphony gig that somebody else wanted. But I think drummers in general, we love to talk about this stuff, and I think we're more apt to share ideas. In general, like no one's afraid to go check out this thing I've been working on. And I think drummers are more apt to even put it out there, like not polished. Like this is what I'm working on. I love that Annika Niles was putting up. She was working on some foot technique stuff, and so weekly she was posting on Instagram herself trying to work on a particular, sort of heel toe technique, and she was really struggling in the beginning, and she was posting videos of like, it sounds awful. And then she would post the next thing. It was getting a little better, and like, so we're more apt, I think, to put ourselves out there in that way. And because we're not going to attack each other for it. I think we're a very supportive community. So.
Yeah, I'd agree.
I'd agree. Oh, that's funny. So. Yeah. So, Jeremy, yeah, I know. It didn't pop up on YouTube. There was something going on with YouTube tonight. It's never perfect, guys. I have to say, man, it's like, I'm at the mercy of Restream, which is a software which is pushing it out to all the platforms. And then, that's why you said that, Jeremy. I understand now. So, remember when he said running late?
Oh, right.
Yeah, he was referencing YouTube. All right.
Oh,
but
sorry,
he's over
Jeremy.
on Facebook. So, glad to have you on Facebook, Jeremy. Cool. So that project, and you were kind of saying the other day that you kind of thought it might be further along, but as these things take time, especially when you're doing multimedia type projects.
Yeah, when you want to do it right, and it's tricky to research dead people sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Dead people whose names you don't know, and so you're having to take clues from the photos. I was actually able to identify a bunch of people. I had some first names, and it was there were ribbons that these guys were wearing, and I zoomed in really super tight, and I said, "Does that say the word Pacific?" I think it does. And then I'm looking at cues in the background because I see those details. I'm not a person, who just sees the big picture. I'm looking at I missed the big picture for the small details. And I see a furniture company listed in the back, and there's a train, and I'm looking at those things, and I find out it's Pacific, Missouri. And then I'm able to match up the names on of these drummers and find their names in newspaper articles and things like that. So just to give some meat to behind, like, here's some random people I don't know, and here's some more random people I don't know. So find out who these people are and where they lived and how long they played. One of the little boys from a performing family, I think out of Pennsylvania, if my memory is serving correctly. I followed him out to high school in California, where he graduated, and and he was still drumming as a high school student, and and just finding those lives, and I always do that with the hope of trying to find more information about them from their families.
Right.
So especially when they're young kids and they're in a family band, and there's a little bit of a history that you can follow and find all of their performances in the newspaper ads that were posted back in the day, back in the 20s. So,
wow. Thank goodness that you do this and that Daniel studies this. I mean, it's not that many people that have the patience and that invest the time in the history of this instrument and this passion that we have. So, thank God for you, I have to say. And it's funny that you were saying that sometimes you miss the bigger picture because you're looking at the little details. Do you do this? Like if I'm watching a movie or a TV show or something, I'm never looking at the person who's speaking. I'm looking around, right? I'm looking at the reaction of the other people, or I'm looking at something in the background. Because I can hear the person who's speaking, so I really don't need to look at them. So I take that opportunity to look at what one of the actors all the way in the background, what their face is doing. I think it's interesting to see reactions
Right. Yeah. Or if somebody's really working with something with their left hand or whatever hand they look at their other hand and
Yeah.
see what that one is doing. Right.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Or like, something's going on up top, and then if the feet are in the picture, see what's going on down below with the feet. Because sometimes it's just no sound and just somebody's heel is moving on the floor, or something
Right.
that's really interesting that makes you go, I see what they're doing. So,
Yeah.
um, ah, very cool. I love looking at the little details. I was gonna use a term that it won't come into my head at the moment, but there's a terminology for that. By the way, I'm monitoring the chat as we go, so there's questions already. So I'm just
Oh,
gonna get some questions going
open it up.
as we go along. And I think before we wrap up later, I want to mention, if we get into it, I want to mention food because it sounds like you're kind of a foodie.
I'm a really picky eater, but if
Okay.
there's something I like, I want it like I will have it for all three meals. Like when I go down south to where my dad was born and raised, and I will have pit barbecue
Right.
every day for every meal because I can't get really good pit barbecue up here.
Right. Where was your
So
dad raised?
he was born near Dyersburg, Tennessee.
Wow.
So right on the banks of the Mississippi River on the backwaters. And there were some interesting stories there for sure, but they moved into Dyersburg when he was a young kid. And there was a place that every time we went to Tennessee for vacation, we went to that place, right? And that's all we ever had was that place. It was like, so it's their barbecue sauce I crave if I'm going to have any sauce, and it's their buns and their whatever.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. That's funny because, as you said, you can't get that stuff where you are. And so when you have that opportunity, you just want it all the time.
mhm.
So there's definitely location for certain foods. But yeah, we'll get into that maybe a little bit later. So John said, "Did you attend music college?" And it's a two-part question. Who are some of the drum educators that you study with?
Oh, okay.
So John Gill.
And that's Sean Gill.
Yeah.
Hi, John. Yes, I did go to college for music performance. I was on the 7-year plan, as many music students are.
Yep.
and and I did not want to be an educator in a school or a college, so I just studied how to play. And for me, it was good. Yeah, I didn't get drum set instruction at college at any level of the 7 years of college I took. It was all more orchestral, concert percussion, things like that. But it still serves me well, having that background, having that stuff. And what is part two?
So who are some
Oh
of the
yeah, yeah.
instructors
Who
or
you
educators?
know? Um, let's see. Well, I'm gonna. Yeah, we didn't get the script printed so we could refresh our conversation from Monday. But the first shout out I'm going to give is actually to somebody who virtually nobody on this call, if anybody on this program, is going to know. And that was my first instructor. His name was Mike Raskovich. And he was my band director for the first 2 years I was in junior high school. And I was telling this last Monday that the lessons were $8 a half hour. And after the second lesson, we would just meet after school on Wednesdays. And after the second lesson, he said, we're here on school property using school instruments. I don't think I can charge you for this. And so he said, but keep on coming, keep coming. I want you to come. And so I did. And for 2 years, he gave me lessons for free. And
Unbelievable.
I really didn't really recognize the just the personal commitment that he had to making me the best that he could make me. And so I'm so grateful to him and his persistence and his encouragement. And so that is, for me, it's like I don't care if people know who he is or don't know who he is, if he's famous or not famous. He was absolutely foundational in everything that I do since then.
Wow.
Yeah, and what a commitment to me, you
And
know.
he's still
He
with
didn't
us.
have to do that. Yeah, yeah, he is, and we stay in touch, so which is nice. And let's see,
And I have a special surprise. Here he is. No, no. Wouldn't that be crazy if I just brought him in suddenly?
that would be crazy. That really
This
would
is
be
your
crazy.
life. Uh,
I've had an opportunity. Now, I've been studying with Daniel Glass for quite a few years. That has actually come through grant projects.
that's
So,
amazing.
learning specific styles of music and then being able to perform that and essentially make me more employable in the long run.
Yeah.
And so that's been fun. I've had one off, I'll take a one off lesson with literally anybody. So I have had a had an hour with Michael Baker, who was with Whitney Houston for a great many years,
Wow.
with David Garibaldi, with Billy Cobham, with Glenn Sobel.
Yeah.
Oh, and I've also had another grant project where I was studying the fundamentals of progressive rock and double bass drum pedal stuff, which I've never had to do before,
Yeah.
with Brandon Koo in Singapore.
Yeah. Brandon's a great guy. I know
He
Brandon.
is, yeah.
So that was very cool.
And
I saw that in your bio.
yeah, so it's just what a treat. And it's like I believe, I don't care what age of a person you're talking with, I believe that they have something that they can teach you.
100%.
And so I don't care who you are, I will take a lesson with you.
Nice.
And one of the most important lessons, we were talking about this also on Wednesday, and nobody got to hear my answer, right?
Right.
is that one of the most important lessons that I had was with Rick Fiorabracci, who at the time was Billy Cobham's bass player.
Right.
And, just being able to have that immediate feedback and immediate use of that knowledge, and it's like, is this right? Yeah, no, that's not quite right. And tweak it and tweak it, and then finally come to it like, yeah, that's where you need to be with that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
One of the most important things.
definitely, I recommend that every musician, every drummer, percussionist study with another instrumentalist for sure. And I mentioned Jazzmobile the other night, which is a New
Mm-hmm.
York based program, but I got to study with John Stubblefield, great sax player. And so playing with him, that guy's played on like some of the biggest jazz records on the planet, and I got to play with him. And so that was really amazing. And then I got to study with Charlie Persip at Jazzmobile a little bit. So, and I was a total fusion head, and they were kind of talking about really traditional roots and stuff, and it was just invaluable. But studying with a sax player was really pretty incredible. So, and another, just on that note, I go on tangents. I apologize in advance, but every drummer should own the Charlie Parker Omni book and play the sax solos from the Omni book. It's really interesting to interpret melodic solos. So that's a fun book to do it with, because a lot of the tempos are really blaring. So much of the notation is eighth notes and quarter notes, but it's kind of fun to use it as a sketch for melodic structure, or to use it as a phrasing book. So anyway, that's my little tidbit.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's great.
There's more questions. Let's see. So we got John Gill. Ross said, "Do you think that sharing is what helped our instrument develop this far in the 100+ short years of history?"
Oh, I
That's
don't know.
interesting.
I don't know if the attitudes that people have today and the inclusiveness that people have today um, was really a part of the history of the instrument 100 years ago, where where integration of musicians wasn't really allowed
Right.
due to Jim Crow laws, things like that.
Yep.
Except in Storyville, I think there was some white and black players together with perhaps other cultures as well. And also, the other place that we see integration is in prison bands, which
Right.
is interesting in the early 1900s and before then as well. So, there was that divide where I think there were probably a few situations where musicians had the opportunity and the permission in a
Right.
sort of way to share. So I don't know. I don't know what I think about that.
It's interesting, and that must be. I mean, as far as the sharing thing, culturally, there's probably differences depending on the region. Like if you talk
Mhm.
about a place like Brazil, where people are learning folkloric drumming, as part of their culture, where
Yeah,
it's being
that's a
passed
lifestyle.
down as a lifestyle, right? Um, Whereas I feel like here it's more pedestrian in a way. It's more, somebody gets the drive to want to play music. It's not really like, although there are some families I'm sure they're passing it down, and we're
Mhm.
lucky enough. But like in my family, no one really played music. My dad was a giant music fan. We talked about that earlier, by the way. Oh, we talked about dementia and all kinds of fun stuff today. We're getting into the hardcore topics tonight, kids. Um, but we were talking about, so my dad was really a music fan, so he turned me on to music, but he did not play an instrument. He did study music theory, which I thought was interesting, but because he was such a classical music buff, he wanted to understand theory so that he had more insight into the stuff he was listening to, which I thought was pretty interesting. That he was learning scales and keys without an instrument. There was no instrument. So I was the only one in the family that was playing an instrument, which is
Oh,
um,
interesting.
so it was really passed down through listening to recordings or listening to records. My dad taking me to the ballet, taking me to the opera, the Philharmonic, and then he took me to see Buddy Rich when I was about 11 years old at Brooklyn Academy of Music, and that was life changing. That was almost like, do I want to keep doing this? Wait, yes, I do. I do. Yeah, yeah. And at the time, I only owned a single headed bass drum that was set up like a table, and I had sticks, and I would play on the
Mm-hmm.
top of this bass drum. That was the only drum I had at the time. But yeah, so culturally, it was passed down through listening, but not through playing. So,
Oh, right, right.
it's kind of an interesting thing. And a lot of musicians will say that, right? So, oh, my parents played lots of music in the house. And,
Mhm.
Daniel said that his parents liked Fleetwood Mac, and he wound up going to see Fleetwood Mac as one of his first big arena concerts. So,
Right. My first big arena concert was Jerry Lee Lewis.
oh, wow.
Right. I was 4. Right.
Oh, my
And my,
goodness.
yeah. And my mom who loved music, she's like, well, we need to see him. He's a legend. We need to see that.
Wow.
So, yeah. And then the next concert I went to was Jethro Tull with my brothers.
Oh, my goodness.
I know, like what a difference in musical styles and influences and things like that. And I was probably 14, and my mom was just super excited to support me. Not that she played an instrument, but she always wanted to. She always wanted to play drums, and in schools, girls couldn't play drums, so. She was always denied. So she lived, I think, vicariously through me. And I didn't really know that until maybe 7 or 8 years ago. But
Wow.
she and my dad took me to see Buddy Rich. And at just before the intermission, he says, hey, you're so far away. We can't tell if you like us or don't like us. So come and sit on the stage. And
What?
my mom, yes. And my mom nudges me. She's like, get up there, kid. so, so here is like me and Buddy Rich's bass drum is about 10 feet in front of me. And it was like,
What?
you could see that left hand going, and it was such a fantastic view.
Oh, my
Nobody
God.
between me and him.
Holy moly. My
Yeah.
my experience with the Buddy Rich show was Brooklyn Academy of Music. I was pretty far from the stage, and Mel Torme was singing that night with the Buddy Rich Big Band, and Buddy looked about this big from where I was sitting, so I
Oh,
couldn't see much, but
Jerry Lee Lewis looked about that big, so
yeah,
that's all
exactly.
right.
Um, wow, so your first couple of experiences were pretty vastly different. So it was Jerry Lee Lewis, Jethro Tull, then Buddy Rich. Back to the Tull thing for a minute, Jethro Tull. So I was
Yeah.
never a big Jethro Tull fan, but I had one record on vinyl. It was a brown record. I don't remember what it was. It probably was the one with Aqualung on it. But
No,
it was, I don't remember, but it was definitely interesting.
it was living in the past, probably.
Oh, okay. And I think you could open it up like a booklet, if I remember correctly. A lot of records at the time, you could sort of open it up. There was artwork. It wasn't
Mhm.
double record set. It was just one album, but it had cool artwork. But I mean, what interesting music that it was, uh, flute as like one of the primary melodic instruments in the band, and it was
Mhm.
progressive rock, so it was pretty interesting stuff. And I heard a podcast with the drummer, and I can't remember his name. Maybe but
There were a couple, but
like
could have been Clive Bunker or Barrymore Barlow.
I think it was Clive Bunker,
Okay.
and just interesting to hear, you know, that whole story about the band and playing in that situation. But I could kind of get my dad on board with that. I was listening to that because he was coming from a classical background. I was like, Dad, there's
It's got
the main guy
flute.
plays the flute. It's like, come on, it's not all guitars. Um, yeah, so that's pretty interesting. And then so after the Buddy thing, did that change your trajectory of what you wanted to listen to, or did you still kind of
No,
listen to everything?
yeah, I still listen to everything to this day. So I'm
Yeah.
a huge Stevie Ray Vaughan fan, like
Nice.
massively huge. I got to see him 3 times,
Wow.
yeah, live, and I've the just the variety of people who I've gotten to see live or
Yeah.
in clinics is just it's such a weird and wonderful spectrum. So
Yeah. Isn't
I
it
love that.
isn't it fun to go back and kind of think of all the concerts? I mean, if you were a concert goer and just the variety of stuff that we had access to,
Mhm.
um, which I feel like, you know, it's kind of weird with COVID for sure. But I tell students all the time, I'm like, if you want to see somebody play, do not hesitate. Go. Don't make excuses. Todd Zuckerman talked about this, like where people are like, "Oh man, you came to town, I missed it." Like he was saying, he was checking, when he was a kid, the paper, like we had the Village Voice. You would
Mhm.
go through it and say, "Who's playing in town?" Like you can find out if you want to go out and see people, go, but don't wait because you're gonna regret it. Because when that person's gone, you're gonna go,
Right.
"Damn, I should have seen them."
Yeah. When the
Like
band breaks up, when whatever happens, right?
yeah, like Max Roach. You know, I never got to see him play live, and it's like I could have. There were opportunities that I think back when I was a
Right.
kid where you missed the opportunity. So don't miss the opportunities, people. Go out and see everybody you can possibly see. I,
Listen
for,
to Jim. He's right.
I mean, for
Yeah.
one, I listen to everything across the spectrum from like Lyle Lovett to Frank Zappa to Stravinsky. It's like pretty wide palette. But
Mhm.
like Tom Petty, I never saw him play live, and then he passed, and I was so bummed. And I was like, why did I not go? It really
Right.
broke my heart. So, you, all you people listening, follow my advice. All right, let's just see. There's a couple more questions that I just want to make sure we
Mhm.
get. Tom Peters, what are you
Oh,
staying up all night, Tom? What's going on, you banana? um,
hi, Tom.
Sorry, I'm calling you a banana. I take that back. You're not a banana. You're a wonderful guy. So he says, "Hi, Jim and Kel, pulling a night shift in the UK." He said, "Kel, will you be compiling a book with all of the picks and the history behind them?"
Yes. I'm not sure that we're kind of working in the layout stage right now to figure out which pictures really are the key and the key images for that concept that we were pulling across in that moment, and then what are supporting of that concept, and then we'll have at least what we think we'll be doing. The way that we'll be writing it is then having some extra historical information about the images as is gettable.
Yes, indeed.
Sometimes you cannot get the details, but for as much as we can, I mean, I'm some of the images are on postcards, obviously, and the postcards have coding on the back because, and that is coding, not coating. Coding on the back that tells how good the photographic chemicals are,
Oh,
right? And so using those codes on the back in order to date the photos. But there, I mean, and it's kind of a troublesome thing because you have several dates that are all fighting each other. You have the date that the photographic paper was good until, or the data manufacturer, general data manufacturer. You have the date that the photo was taken and the date that the negatives were printed as a photo. And so you really have to take your cues from some other things, like, was this thing that's in the picture, was that invented at that, at the first time, at the second time, at the third time, whichever of those dates? What does the fashion look like? Are the girls wearing the big fat bows that were popular in 1910 and 1911, or is this after that? Are there, the little flapper hats? So looking at all of those cues, looking at the size of heels on shoes and the widths of ties and the sizes of the lapels, and looking at all of that to try to find, okay, when in history was that, so we can track down some extra information. And that takes a little bit of time.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's a lot to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Especially like you mentioning the coding from the back of the photos. Like that never would have occurred to me. But I guess that now that's making me think about all these old photos that my grandparents left,
Mm-hmm.
of looking at now what do these numbers mean on the back? Wow, that's
Right,
so
that
interesting.
and the size of the photo, and there are other things called cabinet cards, and the sizes of those
Yeah.
also tell you when, a good window of when they were made.
Wow. Oh my goodness. So Lucia, you're posing as Diana, Lucia. By the way, Lucia, I wore a red shirt for Lena. So tell Lena that I wore my red shirt for her. My student Lucia has an adorable little sister named Lena May, and Lena May likes my red shirt. So when I wear that, and how old is she now? A year old.
Oh,
Yeah. So cutest thing ever. But she said, who is your biggest inspiration as a drummer? So this is a loaded question, I know, but biggest inspiration, what was the first name that comes to mind?
I actually have 5.
Okay.
So I
I
cannot,
love that.
I cannot take it down to 1, but I can take it down to 5.
Okay.
So Buddy Rich, Billy Cobham, Stuart Copeland, Chris Layton, and Daniel.
Yeah.
And Ringo. 6. Sorry.
Ringo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a great list. I think that's a great list. And it kind of covers all the bases. It really does.
It really does. Yeah.
It kind of has to. I mean, if you're well-rounded, if you're a well-rounded drummer, and you listen to a plethora of stuff, there should be that diversity in the names of the people that you love. So, yeah. And for me, another one that would be in there would be Russ Kunkel. So I'm a huge
sure.
Russ Kunkel fan because of his approach in recording. So, I mean, then I wind up with like sub lists, so it goes off in a tangent. But he's always one of the first guys that comes to mind with me, as well as everybody that you've mentioned, just because I work with songwriters a lot, and working with songwriters, you really have to play with respect to the lyric and try to understand the emotion of the song. It's almost like an acting role where you have to believe the song a little bit, really, to bring the right emotion to it. So
Right.
I always tell students, I'm like, even if you don't believe it, get the lyric sheets, first of all, from whoever you're working with. Read the lyrics and get yourself in character to play that song. So you're respecting the time, you're respecting the song, but you have to respect the lyrics. So your choices might be based on what is being said, right?
Right. Yeah. There, a really great way to frame that, because I studied a little bit of voiceover work. I just took a class. I didn't do any of it, but it was so interesting because the person leading the class said, when you're doing a voiceover, especially doing a commercial, that you are telling the truth under imaginary circumstances.
That's a great way to put it.
Because for me, I'm not a person who can lie.
Right.
It's just not in my personality. I can't do it. I can't do it well because I don't have any practice at it.
Right.
Right. And, but when he said that, it's like, oh, well, I still don't want to do that, but at least I can understand that.
But that's a great way to put it.
Mhm.
If Jim Mola is listening, Jim Mola is a voiceover artist. Um, so it's, say it again, in imaginary
Telling the
telling the
truth
truth.
under imaginary circumstances.
Love that. I think that should be a T-shirt or a bumper sticker, perhaps. Um, so that answers your question, Lucia. And oh, by the way, back to the music college thing. John Gill's response to you was coming from a guy that spent 5 years at music college. So yeah, no one goes through it in the proper amount of time. I don't
Mm-mm.
think. Yeah.
Well, I
Um,
know one person who graduated with a music degree in 4 years. One.
yeah. I don't know any. I can't think of any. Jeremy says, Kelly, history question for you. Daniel
Mhm.
Glass asked me to research the origins of the snare drum stand. I came up blank. Any ideas?
I know that Wahlberg and Auger were making metal stands for all of the major groups, all of the major drum companies at that time. But I want to say that there were probably also wooden stands made. I'm not sure if those were homebrew or if they were commercially made. But your search is going to be in 1900 or earlier. That's what I can tell you. I think Hamilton stands were maybe patented in 1904. I think, if
Wow.
my memory is serving me correctly. But I know that they weren't really commercially available for a very long time because you wore them or you propped them up on a chair.
Yeah, that famous photo that's at the PAS Museum,
Mm-hmm.
at the Percussive Arts Museum in Indianapolis. By the way, I hope everybody's going to PASIC this year, because if it happens, go out and support. Because obviously it was virtual last year, and it'll be great to see everybody in person. And by the way, at PASIC, you make really really amazing friendships. You meet everybody.
You do.
It's really is like the ultimate sort of meeting of drummers, at least here in the States. And I was just thinking, you never know who you're going to meet. I've become really good friends with Stanton Moore, and I met him um, a long time ago at PASIC. So I kind of had long black hair at the time. But you make these friendships um, at PASIC. It's a great place to meet people and learn. And so that
Yeah.
famous photo
Yeah.
that's in the Percussive Arts Museum with the snare on the chair, who is in that
Mhm.
photo? Do you know?
That might be Dee Dee Chandler. Not
So
sure. Dee Dee
and
Chandler or Papa Jack Lane.
yeah, and it's what a great picture. First of all, seeing just a bass drum and that snare drum up on the chair. I don't think there was even a cymbal mounted on the bass drum. I think it was basically just the two, right?
Mhm.
Because
Potentially. Yeah.
essentially it was the beginnings of really the beginnings of the drum set, right? Combining the bass drum and the snare drum.
Right.
Um,
Right. I just lucked into a photograph that is coming to me from Hungary. It has not arrived yet, and I'm just like, come on, I got to have this. And it's a woman drummer who's got a double drumming setup, but she also has a cymbal on her chair, and it's like,
oh,
no way.
get out of here! That's so cool.
I know it, and I cannot wait for that image to arrive. So I'm always looking. It's like I know all of these photos that I've got by heart, and sometimes I forget. Like I'll look through the book of them, and it's like, oh, I forgot about that one, right?
Wow.
But mostly I know like, oh, I've got that, and I've got that, and that supports this and this. Yeah. So.
You know what's funny? This is kind of my own personal tribute to the snare on the chair. The
Mhm.
snare on the chair. That rhymes. Maybe I need to make that into a T-shirt. So I got this gig very very long time ago on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, playing with a rock band. I don't even remember what band I was playing with, but you call up the club and it's like, hey, you have a back line? And they're like, yeah, there's back line, drums and hardware. Just bring your cymbals and your pedal and your snare. Okay, great. Show up. the hardware is literally in pieces in the back room, behind this stage. And I'm trying to I'm like, what? It's like a cymbal stand bottom with a different cymbal stand top, doesn't fit in that one. So I'm fashioning hardware. I'm actually building a drum set before we go on. And nothing is really matching up. I'm using gaffer's tape to make things kind of go together. I'm like, you guys said you had hardware. They're like, yeah, there it is. And I'm like, well, nothing works. So the snare stand, the cradle's missing. It's just the bottom.
Right.
So it's like, okay, guys, 5 minutes. And I'm like, I don't have a snare stand. So I took a milk crate and put it in front of the bass drum, put the snare on top of the milk crate, put a little gaffer's tape on the snare so it stayed on the milk crate. It was kind of muted, but it sounded fine for the night. At least I convinced myself it sounded fine. Right. And the hi-hat there was no clutch, which, that was an oversight because I always carry 2 clutches. But anyway.
Sure.
So I had the snare on the milk crate. So that was kind of a nod to the chair on the snare. The snare on the chair.
Absolutely. I totally understand that. I actually had an audition last month, and I was in a situation where I couldn't go get what was needed, the materials. They said, get a pair of shakers. Literally, that shouldn't be such a hard thing, but it's like I'm kind of my hands are tied here. I don't have shakers. Let me talk to the kitchen. This was on a riverboat. Let me talk to the kitchen to see what they've got. So I'm asking them if they have popcorn or if they have dried lentils. They have neither. So it's like, all right, I've got to make a pair of shakers here out of something. And none of my vitamin bottles are the same size. So that's not going to work.
Tic Tacs.
And yeah, really. And so I realized that I have 2 different eyeglasses cases with me for my glasses and my prescription sunglasses. So it's like, they're not exactly the same, but they're close. And I take vitamin pills and I stick inside both of my eyeglasses cases. And here we go. It's like, we've got a pair of shakers. It's like, yeah, this may not sound very great, but at least this will tell you, the problem solving that I'll do when something comes up on the road.
Oh my God, that's so great. Isn't it amazing how we have to get really creative fashioning percussion things on the spot when things go wrong? Speaking about clutches before, I was on a jazz trio gig at a Peruvian restaurant in Midtown. Bob Rodriguez on piano, this guy Kermit Driscoll on bass. And I'm really excited to play with this band. And they had a house kit, and I pull out my cymbals, no clutch. I'm like, oh my God, how did I forget my clutch? I can't believe I forgot my clutch. I actually left the clutch at the gig before that on the same day. Forgot it. No clutch, but I had a jam block. So I needed just to be able to make the hi-hat chick sound. So I clamped the jam block to the hi-hat rod so the jam block would hit the hi-hats and give me a chick sound. So I would get some chick. So, yeah. So
that's perfect. Yeah.
We have to get creative. Look. Altoids. Okay.
There we go. That's right.
So anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a gig. I had a rehearsal, forgot my hi-hat cymbals on the drum set that was at the rehearsal space. So I get to the gig, and what I have is a 1930s sizzle cymbal. Do you know what I'm talking about here? The Ludwig with the big rivets that are about the size of pop caps. That was my subdivision for the night, but it worked.
Oh my goodness. You know what's amazing? Speaking of sizzle cymbals, that you can get really creative on the spot. And I've seen pictures of other people doing things, but I've taken coins and taped them on the cymbal, like if I needed a riveted sound. I've taken chains, from lights and put those on. That those work great. Promark actually made one of those and, manufactured it. But chains always seem to work really well. By the way, just a nod to Sabian. Sabian made me this beautiful crescent hammer tone 20-inch ride with 2 rivets in it for my singer-songwriter stuff, because I said I wanted a Levon Helm sizzle type cymbal, and that's what they made for me, and the thing is amazing and beautiful and sounds amazing. But yeah, I've done keys, draped my keys over the cymbal, right? So to make a riveted sound, so you can really get creative. there's a lot of ways to definitely do that.
There are.
So Catherine Marown, or it looks like noun with an R, Marown. I want to say round because I don't want to say, I don't think
Catherine.
It's
Hello,
not,
Catherine.
It's not maroon, right? It's Marown, I think. So can you talk a little bit about the drums behind you, Kelli, please? Because they look amazing.
Oh,
That's
yes.
what Catherine asked.
Catherine is watching us tonight from Bermuda.
What?
Yes.
Shout out to Bermuda. How you doing,
Absolutely.
Catherine? Thank you for joining us. Wait, is that
Absolutely.
Eastern? Is that Eastern time? Bermuda?
No, it is not. It is not. That's why I
sit?
put all the time zones when I'm posting.
Yeah.
I put, Singapore. I get Jeremy is over in Australia. So I've got people from all over the world tuning in. So, and learning about you tonight. So how's that?
A meeting of the minds.
Absolutely. So
the drums.
I know
Crazy.
it. So on the left, that's a very old leady drum. It's got, somebody has painted the edges of the heads red. And I think they've taken off red paint from the rest of the thing. I'm sure it has lived many, many lives, but it's an old enough leady that there's actually wood burning of the logo burned into the inside.
Wow.
So it is a single, all of these back here are single rod tension drums, which means that the tuning mechanism, I've got one actually. I've got a little snare drum here that I can show as an example if that'll show up.
Yeah.
So there's one side that is has a tuning peg, basically the square part that you'd put the key on, and the other side is just threads. And so when you tighten one side of the tension rod, it tightens both heads simultaneously.
Wow.
Which is, of course, why we don't do that anymore.
Right.
Because you don't have control. You can't choose. You can't compensate for one head more than the other, which we sometimes have to do.
Since the other side is threaded, if it gets too loose, the bottom's going to fall off.
Yeah.
I mean, the cloth, right?
Right, exactly. Exactly. So that's the one on the far left. I got that out of a cellar from Wyoming, the state of Wyoming.
Is there like a little oval carved into the hoop, or is that something on the hoop itself?
Oh, that's the leady badge.
Oh, that's the badge. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
On the hoop.
Mm-hmm. On the counter.
Is it riveted through, or?
Let me see if I can feel of it. It is, yeah. Well, it must be screwed in because it's not on the other side.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So screwed in. Wow, that's
yeah.
Fun.
So next to that is a little tiny bass drum. It was I got it from a seller in Florida who had purchased it from an estate in New England. And I was looking for a decal or a badge or something like that. There's no paper badge on the inside. And as I was turning it, I saw a little glint of light. And I look at it, and Alfred has carved his name into the drum and his address and everything. Wow. So I've been finding out a lot about Alfred and the kind of jobs that he would have played in the town that he lived in at the time that he used this drum. So it's like, trying to find the history of the people behind the history of the drums is kind of important to me, just because Alfred loved this drum enough that his family understood and took care of it long enough that it ended up on his estate sale. They didn't ditch it. They kept it, right? And so part of their heritage and part of that family's history with that drum is a part of, for me, that needs to stay with that drum. It's part of that provenance. And it doesn't matter to me if Alfred was famous or not famous or infamous for that matter, right? It is still a part of what this drum has gone through and kind of gives you clues, I think, to what kind of equipment he may have used when he was using that bass drum.
Wow.
So there's a 6 or 7 minute long video in my video series. I've got two series. One is the Back in Time series, where I'm looking at a component, historical component, and kind of doing a very short but deep dive into the history of that component. But the Revival series is talking about the renovation or the restoration of some of the drums in my collection.
Wow.
So there's and I was as you'll see, I don't want to give any spoilers away, but as I was trying to put I made heads for that drum, and when I was putting it on there, I cracked the counter hoop. And thankfully, because I was trying, you have the warpage of the drum and the warpage of the flesh hoop and the warpage of the counter hoop, and everything is twisted and cupped and whatever, and so you kind of have to tease things to get back into place, or have it exactly perfect, everything lined up. And I hear this, it's like, oh. But it was just the hide, the glue letting go from itself. I made a small break in it, but not it was just like the tail end of the overlap.
Okay.
So it wasn't bad. I took it to my guitar luthier friend, and he fixed me back up, and I just have to put it back together. I have to get a new head for it. But let's see, next to that, this one here, if you can see that.
Yeah.
This one here. That one was, I purchased it from a woman in nearby Wisconsin. She used it when she was like a dance band drummer for many, many decades. And she played that drum at the Eau Claire Normal School, right? Because they didn't have high schools back then. They were all normal schools. And the drum itself was manufactured in Cincinnati in 1912 or soon after that, based on the paper label that is inside. It tells a street address, and they moved at that address in 1912. So it's like looking at all of these little tiny clues to try to find out the history of this particular instrument. Fillmore Music House, Cincinnati. And then this cream colored one over here, that's a late 20s Leedy. I purchased that from a fellow in Ohio, along with, I got the Charleston pedal that I have from him, and a Ludwig snare drum, very early Ludwig snare drum, and just a whole bunch of accoutrements, and then extra things that I didn't know I was getting with it too. And that was a crazy trip, because on the same trip, I was also picking up another drum set. So a 10-piece shocking pink glass glitter Tama Star Classic set. So
I want to see that one.
Yeah, that one is pretty awesome. It is, as I like to say, the color is so bright that the drum set is loud before you ever play a note, right?
Yeah.
It's so many drums, and I've got that set up in my living room right now. I've got a ride, 2 hats, 2 effects, 2 splashes, 6 crashes, and 2 chinas on it.
Oh, good. It's like a cocktail kit. Perfect.
Yeah, just like a cocktail kit. That's exactly
Bring that to
right.
the restaurant gig.
And that's what I've been learning, studying with Brandon.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and I forgot, when I first got that drum set, you were asking who I've studied with. I've taken, every time I get to San Diego, I take some time with Rick Stojak.
Cool.
Right. And
Yeah.
so and he's such a sweetheart, and it's like, okay, I just got this drum set, and I've got so much real estate right now here, in doubling the size of what I usually play. Help me grow into this new real estate. So,
oh my goodness, that sounds so
he's
fun.
been super helpful with that. So I get to I pick up drum set number 1, which is the Tama. And then I get to drum set number 2's location, and he looks and he sees this car that is, essentially filled with drums already. And he's like, I don't think you can fit all of this in there. I said, no. I'm like, I have major Tetris skills here. You just wait and see. And sure enough, it was easy. I had room to spare.
Yeah. I mean, if you had to, I would imagine that you probably would have taken heads off and put drums inside of drums and just condensed everything until you could fit everything. Not that you needed to, but I'm saying we would make it happen.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
I actually would have gone to a UPS and shipped a couple of things
Gotcha.
if I had to. It was a Saturday afternoon at 2:00. But here's the crazy thing. I was so excited about not having both, the one drum set, but both drum sets. I drove all the way home from Huron, Ohio, which is right outside of Sandusky, to 40 minutes north of the Twin Cities the whole way. So
how many hours is that? 14 hours?
14.
Yeah, 14 hours. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was crazy. And
yeah.
I didn't start getting tired until about an hour and a half from home.
It's like driving. I'm being fueled by drums. I have to get home. Oh my God. Isn't that funny? Like we have this childish joy that like, the new toy, I have to get it home. I have to do it.
So many toys. Yeah.
It's really funny. Like with the collecting part of it, there was a time when I was more apt to buy old drums and own some things that were of interest. I still have maybe a couple little things, but I had from a garage sale gotten an old Ludwig bass drum. It was that brown with natural sort of hoops. I don't think there were claws on both sides. I think it was the same system that you're talking about. An old Ludwig snare drum that still had everything, had calf heads on it. Super early stuff. And there was a bass drum pedal that had a leather beater head on it. It was sewn. It was leather. It was very, very old. And it had accessories. So it was a wood block, a triangle, a little splash cymbal. And it looked like sort of a student model. It might have been a catalog type of kit. And there was a trap case, a very old trap case, and all this stuff.
Nice.
And I gave it all to Vince Giordano. And like I had it in my basement for a while. And then I just kept looking at it and I'm like, I'm never going to do what this deserves to it. I'm never going to take the time. And that's what I thought. I was young. I was, maybe 19 or something. And I was just like, yeah, I'm not going to give this the respect it needs. So I gave it away.
But you
gave
it to the right person.
I gave it to the right person because Vince, it's in his museum, which is in his house,
Right.
Which is that's a whole nother crazy thing. I had spent a lot of time with Vince Giordano. I told you I played in his band for a little while. And I also, when Jojo Mayer was doing his Secret Weapons 2 DVD, I brought Jojo over to Vince's house and gave him a tour of Vince's bass drum pedal collection because Jojo was looking at the history of the bass drum pedal. And what was amazing, he was carrying around his Sonar pedal that he designed in his pocket of his cargo pants because it folded up into this very small sort of thing. And he's pulling that out to show it to Vince. And Vince had, a snowshoe hi-hat and all these low boys and all this really interesting stuff. But I gave all this stuff to Vince and, I glad I did, really, because it probably would have, I don't know what would have happened to it. I never took pictures of it either. We take for granted that, now we just take our cell phone. We're like, oh, that thing is really cool. Oh, let me take a picture of that. Oh, look, this is my sandwich. But like back then, it was sort of like
my pit barbecue.
Oh my
Come
God,
on,
yeah,
man.
exactly. I mean, I would have had to really think about, I want to take a picture of this drum set. Let me go to the store and buy some film because I know I don't have any film, and then take a picture of the drum. So
such a process back then.
Yeah, exactly. Steven Sasso's in the room. And let me just see. So, Lena says hi. So, hi, Lena. Kelly, since you're a singer as well, do you think that playing the drums has made you a better singer or vice versa? Good question.
Ooh, I've never thought about that. It might make me be more melodic as I approach solos. That's what I would say because I'm always because I sing and drum quite a bit. Whether it's leads or backing vocals doesn't matter to me, but I'm always having to take that breath when I'm playing, and it forces you to, and you're being forced to take breaths at places that are musically smart places.
Yes.
And I think that probably transfers into my playing some way. I've never thought about it, like I say, but that's my guess.
That's really good. And looking at it from the other perspective, I think that your singer would potentially make you also make better choices as a drummer or percussionist because you're thinking about what the singer like from a tempo point of view, from a
Mhm.
feel point of view, from space. Making choices as a drummer. And that's why I was saying like for drummers that don't sing, get the lyrics, really learn the song completely. Not only the form, but know lyrically what's happening because it'll make your choices better. So you're more supportive of the singer. So you
Mhm.
having both of those hats really makes you more sensitive to both sides of that coin.
Right.
Because a tempo thing, even a few BPM, can make it really difficult for the singer to phrase.
Hmm.
And so we have to be really respectful of where singers feel the tempo. Uh,
Right.
you know, so that's my
So true.
spin. Jeremy is saying, so when Rossini wrote Thieving Maggie, circa 1850-ish, it has two snare drums at the start. Would these have been on stands, perhaps wooden ones you mentioned? That was back to the wooden snare stand
Oh,
question.
well, I don't necessarily have an answer for that, but I guess yes.
Didn't they have like a Tama curved rack or something at the time?
And John Aldridge
Yeah, yeah,
scratched a fantastic design into it.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I I think I'm going to say, like I say, I guess yes is
Yeah,
my answer.
or they had two chairs, um,
Or they had yeah, or
or
a couple of milk crates.
or maybe they had like a young servant hold the snare drum, and it would be the human
Well,
snare stand.
but I might be taking back my answer on that though. So let me go back to this snare drum here. That
What?
has an integrated. I'm not sure if you can see this
Yeah.
very well, but it has an integrated leg rest and an integrated.
So that would be
Um,
for a strap.
yeah.
Oh,
So
right.
it's possible. If I'm not sure, but the tell me when a good place to stop spinning is.
That's
But
perfect.
okay. Yeah, so they may have been wearing them. That's another thought. There may
Yeah.
not have been stands.
That's a very good point because if you think back, if drumming was coming from a military background, maybe the drums were being worn, in early orchestral settings.
Sure. And these drums, I'm seeing drums that are this size, which is it's
This is
16 and
16.
change, I think.
Wow.
Um, I see drums that are this size and a little bit shallower as well, depth wise, that are being worn in parades and things like that. They're not always the deep marching drums. So
Yeah, yeah.
it could be there's that's so hard. I haven't found that photo yet
Yeah,
that
yeah,
tells
right,
me that
exactly.
answer,
There are any
right?
paintings from
What I can say is that as far as bass drums go, I see those sometimes on chairs and sometimes on stands, like those little kind of X-shaped stands that we still see today.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, very cool. That was a great question, by the way, Jeremy. Bob Sears says, hope to meet Kelly at PASIC. Are you going PASIC this year?
Wah, wah, wah. I signed
No.
up virtual, but I'm tied up. I'm
Oh,
tied up that
no.
weekend. Yeah.
Not happening there, Bob. You'll have to wait
Sorry,
till
Bob.
next year. But you get to meet
But
Kelly here tonight.
that's
So,
right.
see, this is what I'm saying about community. It's like, we got together, we're doing this. We're just doing this. We just do it because we love it and we want to
Yeah.
bring it to you guys. So, we're not being paid by any sponsors that I know of. I don't think so.
No.
Maybe Dollar Shave Company might send me a check. Um,
Maybe they might send me
but
some.
I
Come
will
on, man.
mention ProLogic's practice pads, my favorite tools, and what you were saying before about lying about things. Like I don't really like any other practice pads, and I wouldn't. I only use the stuff I really love. So it's sort of
Right.
different the different models that they have going on. I could go down a Prologix rabbit hole. I'm actually thinking about having the Prologix guys on for a Monday night live stream to talk
That'd be
about,
great.
the company and get into it with Jason Edwards and, see kind of about the history of that. And my new Dom's pad sticks. Hey.
Oh, yeah.
From Vader. Vader's making them now. So these are awesome, by the way. Let me just check. There might be a couple other questions that we want to hit real quick. Yes, Bob. So we'll see maybe one day in person. Meanwhile, Lucia, since you listen to so many different types of music, what really is your favorite style to play? Loaded question.
Boy, that's also a tough question because
Yeah.
I guess I'm really happy in the moment.
Yes.
So I've played in a country band. My uncle asked me what I wanted to do for, as a job when I grew up. And I said, well, there's going to be two things that I'm never going to do. And that's mud wrestling and playing country music. Right. So I'm wondering when the mud wrestling starts because I played in a country band for about 4 years.
Wow.
And I didn't love the style when I came to it, but I came to have a grand respect for the writers and for the musicians and for that whole heritage. And so, I came around and I've got, artists who I really respect and artists who I don't like so much. But when I'm playing those who I really have a deep respect for, especially, I'm so happy just to play that music.
Yeah.
And the same is true. I love listening to blues music.
Right.
And I enjoy playing that quite a bit. But I also have performed with the Sheldon Theatre Brass Band, which is a British style brass band. And I love playing with those guys because they're such good players. I mean, literally some of the finest players I've ever played with that brass band. And, just so I'm happy there too. I'm really happy just you're playing anything. I'm happy playing. I don't care what style.
And I think the moral of the story with that is play everything that you can. Lucia's a young student of mine, and she's playing in some rock bands and stuff, and she plays a multitude of instruments, but play with everyone you can play with. When I was a kid, I did a lot of regional theater stuff, pit stuff as a kid, and it was such a great experience. So I would come in, it would be maybe one violinist, a flute, and the musical director on piano, and then me playing percussion. And I remember having the score and just having a little drum kit, and there was a lot of places where I was resting and not really playing anything. So I had the score, and I had a synthesizer, so I brought up oboe parts, and I'm sitting there playing oboe parts, whatever I could do to add to the music. But I was, in the moment, really enjoying playing that. And then, that was heading into high school, and I was playing in a heavy metal band, playing clubs. So it's like, do it all, play everything. Play metal, play jazz, play marches, do it all.
Absolutely. I love driving a big band. Love that.
Yeah.
So that's, I have fun with whatever it is I'm doing. It doesn't matter.
Absolutely. Carrie McDonald, I love all the inventiveness. Great conversation, she says. Catherine said, thank you, cool. That was answering back to our earlier one. Brandon Koo in the house. What's up,
Brandon?
Brother?
Hello.
Brandon, are you in Singapore? Are you in town? Where are you? Where are you in the world? Where in the world is Brandon Koo? So good to have you along with us. Debbie Katz-Knowles, such cool bass
Debbie.
drums. Hey, Debbie. Thanks for hanging with us tonight. John Gill said
we met on the river a couple of weeks ago. We had seen each other's names on Facebook, but met quite by accident when her husband, I saw him walking down the hallway, and he's got a bass clef hat on. It's like, hey.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's like, so you never know how you're going to meet somebody. And then he says, well, my wife is a drummer and percussionist. Like, no way.
What?
So,
isn't that cool? I mean, it's really funny. I think as drummers, we can also tell when somebody probably is a drummer.
mm-hmm.
Don't you ever get that feeling about somebody?
Right. And Debbie, I'm going to be in town on Thursday night. So Thursday day. So if you're open, we'll have to catch some dinner.
Yeah. Get some barbecue.
No. Get
Oh,
some
right.
potato chips and an Italian beef sandwich.
That's right.
Come on,
Italian
man.
beef sandwich. We had that conversation earlier. Um, so, hey, Kelly, check out the Northrop Drum Museum in Oneonta, New York. They have a Facebook
Yeah,
page. Love vintage drums.
Tim Northup, he is an avid collector and cares about the heritage of the instruments too. And so, yeah, he's got a fantastic collection. And the cymbal holder that you see on this Fillmore,
Yeah.
that came from Tim Northup. So I've
Really?
mhm.
Holy moly.
Yeah. So it
Interesting
is. I
connection
have
there.
things from all over.
Oh, my
So
goodness. Ross says that he was lucky enough to meet you at PASIC a few years ago.
oh,
When
awesome.
you and Daniel did a masterclass about silent film sound effects,
We
which
did.
which you and I kind of spoke about today. Like, wouldn't it be fun if you and I both had percussion sound effects and were using them throughout the interview, which would have been fun. Like I was saying, maybe you make a joke and I do a siren whistle, or yeah, you do the ratchet when I'm like trying to stretch out my shoulder.
Right.
I visited, I think, what was NBC studios when I was in school as a kid, and they gave us a tour. I'm thinking of maybe
You
the
got to
wrong
see like
museum.
the big room with that whole,
Yeah,
like, what, a couple hundred instruments. Did you get to see it at that time?
I was in elementary school, and they took us through this incredible walkthrough, and they were talking about how they did sound effects on these different things, and so they were showing how they would make the sound effect of soldiers marching,
Mhm.
and they had this pegboard with two
Right.
handles on it, and they were going, and I was like, that is amazing. I think that kind of piqued my interest with the theater stuff, and all the
For
sound
sure.
effects.
Yeah.
Yeah, really interesting
Yeah.
stuff.
I got to study as a grant project. I got to study silent film sound effects, and Bill Ludwig III came up to Minnesota and brought his family's collection of stuff, or what remained of that collection, but it included a Surefire shot machine. And I don't know if you know what this is, but that simulates a gunfight,
Right.
and a railroad sound effect. And oh my gosh, we had so much fun. For 2 days, I'm just geeking out and hearing all of the stories, and the Swedish fire department being called in to a demonstration of that Surefire shot machine because it gives off so much smoke and it's so loud.
Wow.
And they didn't know, but they had tripped the fire alarms. And so 10 minutes after that happens, the Swedish fire department comes busting into this auditorium, right? It's like the best story ever.
Oh my God. Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So, oh wait, one more question. Oh, okay. All right. So, Debbie was saying big band. That was reacting to when you said about big band. Brandon Koo said, "I'm everywhere." Ha 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 ha. And
Yes, he is.
yeah, for sure. Everybody's loving the interview. So very cool. Debbie said, "Call
Aw.
me." Debbie says, "Call me."
Yes, I will.
So Debbie Harry wrote the song "Call Me." I don't just
Yes,
went on a
she
tangent. I
did.
don't know why. So as far as we were talking a little bit about 20s big band stuff. I played
Mhm.
with Vince Giordano briefly, and learning about sort of playing the style,
Mhm.
and making the mistake of I had Vince really early on before I even played with them, going, "There's no ding ding a ding ding a ding," and it was all ding check ding check ding check ding check, and his
Mhm.
stuff there was a lot of like real quick up tempo. Lots of splash cymbal at the ends of tunes, of course.
Right.
And really having to nail that stuff and going through these arrangements, it's really quite daunting when you start to try to learn that style.
Mhm.
So speak to and we were talking about chart interpretation,
Yeah.
chart interpretation, where it's like time marks that were quarter notes, or you were saying tied
Looks like
five
a
stroke
Sousa
rolls,
March.
Sousa March, right? So, and then having to sort of articulate what is really the right thing for that. And really the best thing you could do is go back and listen, right? So like
Right.
Vince has
Yeah.
this incredible roll piano collection, and also, why am I blanking on the record player on the phonograph? He's got the rolls, also for that, and so
The Edison, yeah.
yeah, the Edison, and so getting to hear the stuff, that was an amazing experience. So, but
Right.
it's difficult to hear what is happening from the perspective of drums, especially with young ears. You're like, even with just early recordings of rock and roll, trying to listen when you're young, and you're like, what are they playing? It seems so buried. You get better, your ear gets better. So how is that for you coming to this music?
Well, it's so tricky. And as a band leader of a 10-piece dance orchestra from that era, it's my responsibility to know what feedback to give to the guys to tell them how to play this more authentically. And for me, it's all about the authenticity. So it's looking at a dotted eighth followed by a 16th note. That's not a 12/8 feel. That's a dit 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 dit, right? Instead of da 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 da. And just being really when you listen to the stuff, especially from the late 19 teens, where it's still that very ricky ticky sound. And if you're lucky enough to get a drum or a record that you can actually hear the drums, it's a different world. It's such a different world. It is not your grandfather's swing music. It is
right.
It is not. It's just a completely different animal. And so I had gotten grant money to study with Daniel to get that foundation. And then immediately following that, I went to a traditional jazz camp for adults in San Diego. So
wow.
that's I've gone there a couple of times, and it's at that time then that I get some more, help me, Rick, right? Some help me, Rick time.
Yeah.
And then that's right at the same time as the NAMM show.
Right.
So it's like I go to class for the weekends, spend a couple of days visiting relatives or seeing things, and then go to the NAMM show after that. So it's kind of like a package deal.
Oh, very cool.
But yeah, but having that opportunity then to immediately take what I learned from Daniel and to use that in a setting, a 7-piece traditional jazz setting. Some people might call it Dixieland jazz, but using that in that setting and just learning, well, more important than that, learning that the cornet player is the boss, essentially. Right. The cornet player is giving you the cues, back to the head, go around for solos, trade fours, and sometimes with foot stomps, sometimes with hand signals, sometimes with the tilt of the bell.
Yeah.
Right. It's like if your clarinetist is over here, the clarinetist knows that I've got the next solo, or I'm taking the first solo after the melody, or whatever. But it's just learning all those cues, and it's so important to keep your eyes open. It's more important, I think, than to keep your ears open almost. It's the context and making sure that you're playing within that. And so, I see the tip of the bell to the clarinet player, and I might shift to playing the shell of the bass drum for
right.
that chorus. So, but and not the rim of the snare drum, because it's too close in timbre,
right,
to the clarinet, to that range. So it's interesting. You make your choices based on that, and I think that some of that it probably also comes from backing up singers and being a singer and knowing if you want to really be emphasizing something or lay back with a cross stick instead. So, but I'm not sure that I've answered the question, because now I've forgotten the question, right? But thinking about that traditional jazz and those early styles, and listening to really weird artists like Fudd Livingston, right? It's like, right, yeah, exactly. So, but anything from that era, I was just absorbing all of that sound and all of that style, and listening to James Lent. We were talking about. Right. Or was it me, or was it, or you, or another caller earlier today that I was talking about Jim Lent? I think it was my other 11
maybe it was your other caller.
Yeah. And So James Lent in 1908 recorded on one of those Edison cylinder records,
Right.
and recorded what is known so far to be the earliest drum solo. And it
Improvised or
is
written drum solo?
performed the drum solo. It's been transcribed by William Kahn, who's a member of Nexus, the
Okay.
percussion group out of Canada.
Yeah.
And and then he re-recorded another version of it in 1912. But just to hear how rudimental that is and how square those notes are, there's not a swing thing in there. And it just gets back to, that early music like Vince Giordano, where it's just so square. And to teach today's players to be that square in their thinking and playing, it's tricky. It takes time to get that into your cells, right? To forget all you've heard about the swing era, and to go and take that step backward to get to a completely different feel.
Yeah.
And you have to know all of that in order to express the new stuff in a different and more improved and more authentic way.
Agreed. And going back in time is giving you clues as to how things have changed. And I think it just sculpts you as a player better if you understand your roots. Why, why just learn what is happening today? It's so, like we were saying earlier, it's, they didn't start out with these, enormous drum sets with electronics and, all this fun stuff going on. The drum sets were very small. We're not small from a diameter size. Yeah. But
small in
quantity.
Options.
Yeah, in options. And then, you see how things evolve. I love in the Century Project, too, Daniel is talking about how components are getting added one by one as you go along.
Mm-hmm.
So like these projects, by the way, all of your stuff, people can find, I listed your website in the description of this video, so people can go to your website and find out about your video projects.
Thank you. Yeah, those are banked on YouTube, on a YouTube channel. So you can see all 18 films there. And speaking of upcoming things, I've got at least one video coming up here in the fall, hopefully released by November 1. And then another 2 immediately forthcoming after that, as soon as my video editor can get the others done.
Awesome.
So I'm happy to be able to be doing more of those again. So
that's great.
Very interesting topic. That's all I'm going to say.
Excellent.
Inspired by Adam Tevlin, who we were talking to this morning.
Yeah, so. Adam. Adam's one of my early coaching students, actually.
Oh, awesome.
Which is
I didn't know that because I was working with him when he was working with you.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
It's a very small world. We're all connected in such interesting ways.
We really are. It's so interesting because Adam he wrote a score for a silent film, and doing things like that. And it's so funny because the silent film, the musicians were they were conducted by the guy I know who took 4 years to get through his degree in music school. So it's like so convoluted and yet connected in ways that if you talk to somebody long enough, you'll find out how you know each other through some other person.
That guy who did it in 4 years is definitely an overachiever.
Shane Williams.
Shane Williams?
He's my hero. Yeah, Shane Williams. He's my hero.
Overachiever. So, Adam's in the room, by the way. I'm here. Love
Hi,
it.
Adam.
Thanks, Kelli Rae Tubbs, drum clinician, writer, historian. He's calling out all you've got singer and voiceover artist in training. Maybe we'll see that happen.
Maybe. I'm actually a composer in training right now with another grant project. I'm working on snare drum solos, and with yet another grant project, I'm working on arrangements for young percussion ensembles.
Oh, that's so great.
Just working on a lot of fun stuff. I love the variety. It's just like was it Lucia who is, or sorry, Libby, what's her right name?
Lucia Rose Seminara. Lucia.
It is. Okay. Yeah.
Lucia.
She was asking what kind of music I like playing. Well, it's just like that. It's like whatever musical activity I'm doing. It doesn't matter if I'm, teaching somebody. It doesn't matter if I'm composing or arranging. I'm just having fun, no matter which way it is.
Absolutely. That's a great answer. Is what kind of music do I enjoy playing? Is whatever I'm playing at the moment.
Hmm.
That's what I'm enjoying playing. I'm doing a lot
Yep.
of progressive rock, sort of fusion progressive rock, odd time signature stuff with a composer right now. So I'm just having a blast playing all these crazy drum parts. And I work with a singer songwriter on a regular basis. We were just in Wisconsin, Appleton, Wisconsin, a couple of
Oh
weeks ago.
yes.
And so I love doing that. I love doing it all. So whatever I'm doing at the moment, that's what I love playing the most.
If you go back to Appleton, let me know. We'll have lunch.
Oh, that would be amazing. Um,
And it's so interesting, how you say that you're working on this thing or that thing. I'm working on some of Brandon's um, songs from Cohen, from that
Sweet.
Remnants of Yesterday release. So it's like, yeah, applying what I've been learning from him in the context that he has set up for those skills that he's teaching me, and then I get to expand on that. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's wonderful.
Cohen is sort of progressive metal band from Singapore, and I met Brandon at NAM, I think, or PASIC. I don't remember, but we met. We actually had dinner. I don't know if you remember Brandon. It was me, you, Joe Bergamini. I want to say Famularo was there. I don't know. A bunch of us went out. I think it might have been. I don't remember what state or city. It doesn't matter. We met. You might remember. You might remember Brandon. Colleen says, "Hi, folks." So Colleen, wait, let me read your full name
Hi,
because
Colleen.
I took my glasses off and
Oh
now
yeah.
I'm completely blind without them. Colleen Wetherell Pados.
Oh yes.
Hi, folks. Yeah,
She's in New England. Hello. Thanks for joining us.
yeah. Ross Amoroso said, I always think about how very lucky I am to get to do this for a living and meet all you wonderful people. And you're so right, Ross. We
All of
we
that.
we can't take any of that for granted. We get to do something we love for our livelihood, which is a lot of people don't get to do that.
Yeah.
A lot of miserable people out there. So, as drummers in our crazy extended family, we are very, very lucky, and I don't ever take that for granted every day. So whether I'm doing, coaching, business coaching, or technology coaching with drummers, or doing a session from my studio here, whatever I'm working on, I am 100% grateful for sure. So, by the way, we talked about food a little bit earlier. I just wanted to ask you because you had a pretty strong opinion about pizza.
Ask,
Which
ask Jim Mullen my opinion about pizza.
right. So Jim Mola would say Lombardo's in Bay Ridge,
He would. I'm excited to go try that sometime.
and
I'll give
which
it a chance.
I'm from Brooklyn
Hmm.
originally. I've never eaten at Lombardo's, and so I'm going to make a trip to Lombardo's.
Oh,
I should
good.
I should have Jim do that. Maybe if they have Wi-Fi, we should live stream it. And we'll go to
Yes,
Lombardo's
you
and have pizza.
should.
But you know, for New Yorkers, like growing up in this area in New York, as a kid, it was Ray's, and it was what's kind of funny is Will Ferrell in the movie Elf makes reference to Ray's on 11th in Manhattan. So Ray's Pizza on 11th, because then there was all these other Rays where it was like, this is original Ray's. No, this one's the original Ray's. But the original Ray's was on 11th and 6th Avenue and 11th in Manhattan. And that
Ah,
at the
gotcha.
time was one of my favorite pizzerias. And I'll
Still
tell you,
open?
still open. And when my kids were little, I remember on a rainy night, not much different than what I had yesterday. No, it was different than what I had yesterday. On a rainy night, I threw them in the car. I think my wife was either visiting relatives. She was away. Um, and I took the kids, threw them in the car at like 9 o'clock at night, drove into Manhattan and went to Ray's Pizza and gave them the sort of Ray's Pizza experience like late at night in the city when they were little. So it was Ray's, but now I live in Staten Island, and people would say it would be Lee's Tavern is the best
Oh,
pizza. But
gotcha.
I like my guy right up the block, which is just Giuseppe's. It's just a little corner place. Great stuff. And I'll tell you one other thing about pizza in New York City, and Jim Mola and I talked about this. There's dollar pizza, right? So everybody from New York knows what dollar pizza is.
Yeah,
on all these, right?
I know what that is.
So by the Music Building on 38th Street, across the street, diagonally across the street from that, which is 2 blocks down from the Port Authority, you had the Music Building on 38th, and diagonally across the street was Dollar Pizza. And Dollar Pizza moves very fast, especially on, weeknights in the city. So it's really fresh. So say what you will about Dollar Pizza, but it was really fresh, always hot, always really good. And so Dollar Pizza, when you're on a budget and you're a musician in New York, Dollar Pizza is pretty good.
Yeah, so, I can imagine. I can see that.
So there's my pizza stance. Now, give us yours. Thank you. Go.
Oh yeah, no, the big triangle is kind of hard to navigate. So give me a tavern cut, please. Just give me
Nice.
a tavern cut.
I love it. And John Gill and I have a mutual friend who's recently opened a pizzeria. I think up your way, John, right? Up near Oneonta. You know who I'm talking about. We may have to make a trip up to our friend's pizzeria and live stream from there. Notice I keep wanting to live stream about pizza. I'm hungry. I think that's what it comes down to. Let me just see a couple. Diana. Oh, so see you Saturday, Lucia. Lucia's probably heading off because it's getting late.
Sure.
So she said you're
Thanks
both
for joining us.
Yeah, she said you're both very inspirational. See you on Saturday. Yes, I'll see you on Saturday at your lesson. She's really a joy to teach. And by the way, her mother bakes amazing baked goods, and they send me baked goods from time to time. And the other day she sent me.
Probably give her my address, and then I can I can judge whether other baked goods that also get mailed to me, if how they compare.
The other day her mother made cake donuts, batter donuts with an espresso or a coffee glaze.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Crazy. They didn't last very long. They're gone.
No.
Colleen Pato says Linguini's in Marlborough, Massachusetts. Best pizza ever.
Oh.
There you go.
So, yeah.
Next time I'm playing in Massachusetts, I'll have to go to Linguini's. Come to my town and live stream about cannolis, Jim. Ross said that we should live stream about cannolis. Because Ross, I don't know if you know, but Ross would give out cannolis during his drum lessons.
Oh, nice.
That's original. I've not heard that one before. But Ross, you've got it covered for sure. So I think at this point we're probably going to start wrapping up. I mean, I had an amazing time hanging with you. I could definitely go all night, but I'm probably going to go do some dinner and probably walk my dog at this point. But I think I say this, to the people that I really have the best time with, and I think we need to do a part 2 at some point. And
I would love to.
I think it would be awesome. And I think you're amazing and so fun to listen to you, and you have so much knowledge, and you inspire me, and you inspire everybody else.
Thank you so much.
And I'm glad we got
so sweet of you.
I'm glad we made this happen.
Twice.
Reboot edition, right? So, and yeah, we'll have to do a part 2, and maybe we can even, Ross had you and Daniel on together. Maybe we can do me, you, and Daniel all together.
Oh, that would be awesome.
As your project comes into fruition,
right.
It would be a great way to talk about the project. And again, everybody can find out more about what Kelli is up to on her website, which is in the description of this video. But I think it's just kelliraetubbs.com. Is that true?
It is very true.
Easy
you can
to find.
Misspell my name just about any way you want, and you will still find me on a Google search.
Thank you, SEO. Yeah, is it? That's true. Isn't that great? It's kind of nice that technology at some points is super helpful to us. I had a kind of a iffy week with technology this week, but but absolutely. So definitely go subscribe to Kelli's YouTube channel, There's a wealth
Yeah,
of
please.
information there. Go to Kelli's website, find out what she's up to, where she's playing, when she's playing, about all of these projects that are coming up. And I had the greatest time hanging with you. We're going to
Me
wrap
too.
it up now. But thanks for everybody that came in tonight and had such great questions. And I really appreciate it. And my next one, my next live stream coming up, we're not streaming on the 6th because it's Labor Day. And I'm going to
Correct.
have a best of episode video running. But the following week on the 13th is Nate Morton from The Voice. And we're going to have a great hang. And Nate's a really interesting guy. And I think that's going to be really fun. But a round of applause for my guest tonight, Kelli Rae Tubbs. And
Thank you.
we'll see all of you on the next one. I'm going to roll the credits, and we'll talk to you guys real soon. Bye, y'all.